Hi, I'm Brian Crombie, and we're going to be talking on The Brian Crombie Show. We're going to be talking about politics, arts, business, and social issues on The Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. You know, we've all, I think, had some challenges during the last year of this COVID-19 pandemic, and all tried to figure out, you know, what's important in life. And I ran across this young lady who calls herself, if you can believe it, a happiness coach. Yeah, you got it right, a happiness coach. What a great term. I love it. And she's written, co-authored a book, and her section of the book is called The Decision to Heal. And it's a fascinating review of a process that she went through, I guess, to figure out what was important in life. And so I want to introduce you to Teresa Greco. Is that right? Teresa Greco.
Yes.
How are you? Welcome to our show.
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me, what got you to want to write a book and become a happiness coach?
So basically my story is how approaching 40 was a turning point in my life. That some people might call it a midlife crisis, but it wasn't a crisis per se, but it was an opportunity for me to start.
Didn't buy a convertible.
No, I just started asking some important questions of my life. So some questions that people maybe can resonate with, in that I was asking, you know, is there more to life than just this? Can I imagine living the same life for the next 40 years that if I had, you know, lived about half my life at that point? Is there more to life than just like working and trying to help others and doing essentially what I was doing? But then there was the big question, am I living my life's true purpose and full potential?
Am I living my life's true purpose and potential? It's a pretty heavy question.
And that came from my feeling that I felt like I needed to be more and do more all the time, and that I was seeking more opportunities to learn more so that I could be more to help other people, and asking, you know, what other opportunities can I get involved in so again I could help other people to try to make a bigger difference. And so in the asking of these questions, I was a bit confused because of the fact that my life on the outside looked perfect, that, you know, it checked off a whole bunch of boxes.
Why
that
did
we
your
aspired.
life on the outside look perfect?
So because it checked off all these boxes, in that I had a really great career, a healthy family, a home, 2 cars in the driveway, vacation a year. And if I said to anybody that I felt as if something was missing, and I felt empty inside and unfulfilled and unhappy, which didn't make sense because on the outside my life it looked good. And so I didn't say it to anybody. I didn't voice these questions or these concerns because I felt ashamed that how is it that I've been blessed with all these things, yet I feel so unhappy and empty inside. And so, again, for fear of rejection.
Like you should have gone on a trip to Bali or something like this.
No, I didn't feel like doing that necessarily, but what I did do is then start with the asking of these questions. I started implementing some changes in my life. That's really why it was a turning point, because like I said, I started practicing different principles and methods that I now talk about that help me to arrive at true inner happiness. And so what I realized when I started to actually go inward with my first practice is that I realized that I had lost myself in the living of my life.
What do you mean your first practice?
So meditation was the very first practice that I started. That when I was asking these questions, I was advised that I should meditate.
By a therapist, by a friend, by a psychic?
Yes, by a medium, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
That I had, I went because I had these questions and it didn't make sense to me. And so I said, like, I need help. What does Spirit want me to do? And she said, they're telling me that you need to meditate. And so meditation now is such a buzzword where we talk about it a lot. But, you know, 8 to 10 years ago, it was still a bit woo-woo and weird. So I was like, well, I don't know I know how to pray, but I don't know how to meditate. And so I ended up going to a meditation center close by my home, and they helped me to get started. They said, we have a meditation circle every month if you want to come in and listen in, and we'll show you what to do. And that's basically what happened. And so.
And how did that help you find yourself?
So because that experience is really so out of body in the sense that you lose the space that you're in, you lose your body, you lose your human body, in that you are completely centered and connected with your inner spirit. And when I went inward, they'll tell you I cried for an entire year every time I went, because I was completely floored at the amount of unconditional love that was inside of me that I didn't know was lacking in my life. Again, surrounded by family and friends and colleagues and involved in so many different things.
Sorry, that you gave unconditional love, or you wanted unconditional love, or what?
I was seeking unconditional love on the outside.
And you weren't getting it?
No, not in the way that you can find when you go inside. And I believe we're conditioned to think that happiness and love and joy and all these other feelings and emotions are found in our possessions, in our titles, degrees, positions, relationships, and that we say things like, I won't be happy until I go on that vacation, and then I'll relax and I'll come back and I'll feel so great. Or I won't be happy until I find, that my person. I'm hearing that word a lot lately. I won't be happy till I find that. I won't be happy till I reach manager at work. And then we realize that we acquire these things, and then we feel good for a while, but then that feeling goes away.
So you're suggesting getting that person is an acquisition? Or some people think of it that way?
Not in the same sense that you would relate to a possession, not like that, but it is finding somebody in your life and acquiring a relationship that you hope you have a true connection with.
And you think a lot of people keep on saying they're going to get happy when they find that person.
Right.
Or they acquire that person.
Because they think that person is going to make them happy.
Rather than make them happy themselves.
Yes, themselves.
Okay.
And so, when you realize that, like I said, you might find that person, but you can still feel empty. So same thing with me, right? I'm married, and I was not finding that in my partner. And if anything, all my relationships at work and personally were all suffering when I was suffering on the inside.
And so the first practice was meditation and finding yourself.
Yes.
Good. We're going to take a break and come back and find out what the second practice was.
Okay.
And something after that. So stay for a minute. We're going to take a break, and we're going to ask Teresa what else she had to do to find this desire to be a happiness coach. Stay with us. Hi, I'm Brian Crombie, and we're going to be talking on the Brian Crombie Show. We're going to be talking about politics, arts, business, and social issues on the Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. Good evening and welcome back to the Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. We're chatting tonight with Teresa Greco, who is a happiness coach. I love that term. I want to call myself a happiness coach sometime. I think that would be spectacular. And Teresa, you were saying that the first sort of process was meditation, and through meditation you found more about yourself, and you found that you wanted unconditional love, and you weren't getting that unconditional love from the people in your life at the time. So what did you do? Throw them all away?
No, so because I then experienced that on the inside, and I now realize that I can tap into that unconditional love whenever I need to. So I go inward, and there's different practices that we can do, like even, being out in nature and hiking and reading and doing other self-care practices that can still allow us to connect with our inner spirit, or I like to call our inner magic. And
our inner magic.
Because I feel like we have so much potential when we connect to that, when we realize that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. That we're not just humans making our way through this world.
Hold on, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So you're saying that the spirit is more important than this body?
And that the body is just a vehicle, a learning vehicle, actually.
For that spirit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, and so you found this unconditional love within yourself?
Yes.
Okay, and then what did you do next?
So then what I realized was that I was, instead of being my greatest cheerleader, I was my worst critic and enemy. And that I then became aware of all the ways I wasn't honoring and respecting myself. And so some of those ways were the amount of like negative self-talk that I had going around in my head. And it then caused me to, because I was going inward, is to analyze why was I mistreating myself. So not only was I mistreating myself, but also allowing other people in my life to disrespect me and honor and dishonor me. And so, and it all stemmed because of the fact that I didn't love myself. So I was permitting different people to, like I said, dishonor and disrespect me. And because I was doing that to myself. So really, our external environment reflects our internal one.
Right.
So if we are suffering and lost and empty and we're not loving ourselves and we don't have joy and peace and all this within us, our external environment just highlights that for us.
Sounds like this meditation and finding yourself caused a huge educational process and a learning process.
And that I've been, and it's always learning. And it's really so, and this is what I feel is our life's purpose, that people throw that around a lot, you know, what, I'll help you find your life purpose. That actually makes me kind of laugh, because I don't think somebody can actually tell you even what your life's purpose is, because it's an internal journey to actually discover that. But I feel like our life purpose is so easy in that we're here to uncover who we really are.
Right.
And that with all the
We're
conditioning.
here to uncover who we really are.
Yes.
So our life's purpose is to figure out what our life's purpose is.
No, that's the second part of it. But the first part is because from small we're conditioned to believe so many different things. Conditioned by society, culture, religion, family, that as we make our way through the world, all of those different areas give us an identity that we take on, positive or negative, and in a lot of cases it's negative. And so when we wake up to the ways that we're conditioned and we think about ourselves and we think about things in our environment, when we become cognitive of those things, that's when we can actually make changes to it. And that is why I say that our life's purpose is to uncover who we are, because it's like we are returning back to who we really were when we first came.
Before we were conditioned by all these things.
Yes.
Okay, so how do you do this? Was this meditation, or was this through some other process or some other?
So all the different, so some of the other practices and principles, one is definitely being in the moment. So living in the now is so important, but it's something that we don't do often. There might be moments that we might.
How do you live in the now?
In that we have to attune our senses. So using, eyes, ears, our feeling, all of those things to be here now and take in the experience with the person you're with or the environment you're in or whatever it is that you're doing to completely, you're not thinking about the past, which is what a lot of us tend to do. And that's just because of how the brain actually operates.
We worry about the past.
And about the future. Actually, we worry more so about the future, and we bring a lot of trauma and rejection and failures and things that haunt us from our past into our present moment.
Okay.
And our past ruins our present moment a lot. And even in meditation, you'll find that as you try to center yourself and try to not think of anything, that there are these thoughts that, even if they're just thoughts from yesterday, they're still thoughts from the past that want to creep in and ruin our serenity moments.
Okay. So live in the moment, but how do you live in the moment? How do you force yourself to live in the moment?
And it's habit.
By focus.
Yes, and it's habit. That the more you practice living like that.
So meditation,
Yes.
and focus on the now.
Yes.
What
And
else?
there's so much happiness and bliss in the now. When you are completely engaged in what you are doing, so if you're a really creative person and you're painting or writing or drawing or knitting or whatever it is that brings you happiness and you're completely concentrated, there's a feeling of bliss in that moment that you don't feel if you are thinking about what you have to do later or thinking about what happened to you in the past.
Okay.
So being in the now is
I've heard some
huge.
people call that being in the zone.
Okay, yes, that would make sense, being in the zone, because
Okay.
you're there immersed in
the
whatever
now.
it is that you're
Okay.
doing. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're also connected to spirit when you're doing that. So there is divine inspiration that's actually coming through you.
When you're knitting.
Yes, when you're knitting or doing whatever you're passionate about. Absolutely.
Okay.
So another is having an attitude of gratitude.
An attitude of gratitude.
Yes. And so gratitude is directly
I'm
correlated.
very gracious. No, I'm very thankful that you shared this with us tonight. Thank you. So that's an attitude of gratitude.
Yes, yes. And because gratitude is directly correlated with happiness. So research shows that the more grateful we are, the more happy we feel.
Okay.
And so especially in times like these where there's so much negative going around, it's so easy to get sucked into that and finger pointed at everything that's going wrong. But having an attitude of gratitude allows you to be in the now and find those small blessings that are there in our everyday. And so my gratitude practice begins the moment I wake up in the morning. Like the moment my eyes wake up, I'm like, I have another day today. Like I made it through the night. I have another day. And then I start to think about all the different things that I can't wait to get to because they bring me so much happiness. And so the key point that I really want to relate to people is that because our external is a mirror for our internal environment, it's so important for us to correct what's on the inside. When I corrected what was missing on the inside, all of the issues I had on the outside all disappeared.
What did your family think of this process?
You know, the beauty of a lot of the things that I practiced, I did that on my own, in isolation.
Did they think you had gone woo?
I didn't really share. The times that I did share a couple things, they did think it was, some of the practices were a little bit odd, but that's because now they're more popular, they're more talked about, whereas like I said, 8-10 years ago, not so much. Mm-hmm.
If people want to grab your book, how do they do that?
So it's available on Amazon and all major book retailers, so Indigo Chapters. Again, it's The Decision to Heal, Pathways from Suffering to Love. It made bestseller the first day it was released on Amazon.
And you have a website for your coaching?
Yes,
What's
so
that?
it's teresagreco.ca.
Teresa Greco, Pathways to Happiness?
No, my website is teresagreco.ca.
No, the book is?
Oh, Decision to Heal,
Pathways
from Suffering to Love.
Pathways from Suffering to Love. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us your pathways from suffering to love. Really appreciate it. I think there's a lot of secrets in what Teresa Greco had to share with us tonight. I love the idea of gratitude and finding yourself in meditation. Attitude of gratitude sounds fantastic. So I'm very grateful that all of you joined us tonight. Thanks so much. That's our show. Good night.